Hello and welcome back to the 8th instalment of my failed franchises series. In this series, I look at failed rail franchises, whether this be their contract being stripped from them or their franchise simply being deemed poor by the public and industry. In today's video, I'll be looking at an infamous train operator, which for several years was deemed the worst in the country in every aspect possible, especially for strikes. I'm talking about Southern. But have Southern turned things around since? And most importantly, can they be classed as a failed franchise? We go back to 2000 when the Strategic Rail Authority announced that Govia would take over the South Central franchise from Connex. I've made a whole video on them. The franchise would originally begin in 2003, but due to poor performance from Connex, Govia began operations early in August 2001, buying out the remainder of Connex's franchise. Originally, Govia kept the original name of the franchise, that being South Central, and had a 20-year franchise. In 2002, however, the Strategic Rail Authority changed their policy on franchise agreements, and thus Govia South Central were re-awarded a 7-year franchise until December 2009, with the company changing their name to Southern in 2003. The South Central franchise covers most of South London and Southern England, along the Sussex coastline, and runs the Brighton Main Line. The main terminus of the franchise is London Victoria, however London Bridge does see occasional use. The company also operates as far north as Watford, but primarily serves south through Clapham, New Cross, Croydon, Epsom, Tattenham, Grinstead, Uckfield, Gatwick Airport, Crawley, Brighton, Littlehampton, Bognor Regis, and westwards into Dorset and Southampton, as well as Portsmouth. Southern also operates more easterly to Lewes, Seaford and Eastbourne along the East Coastway line, and all the way to Ashford via Rye. Overall, the franchise currently calls at over 200 stations, managing around 150 of those. The original Southern fleet consisted of many old Mark I slam door units, with Southern promising to replace these Class 205s, 207s, 421s and 423s by at least 2005. To achieve this, Southern ordered 182 Class 377 Electrostars in 2001 and 15 Class 171 Turbostars in 2002. These replacements proved to be a success and helped replace all slam door units Southern operated by 2005. By 2007, Southern ordered a further 12 Class 377 units to replace the Class 319 EMUs for transfer to First Capital Connect. In April, Southern took over the operations of Gatwick Express, which was now incorporated into the South Central franchise. Gatwick Express services between London, Gatwick Airport, Brighton and Eastbourne were now operated by Southern, under the Gatwick Express name though. This move allowed the Brighton Main Line to have an overall increase in capacity, doubling the services from London to Brighton. However, 2007 wasn't all that positive. The December timetable change left many commuters on the Arun Valley Line from Victoria to Three Bridges and Horsham disgruntled as their services became up to 15 minutes longer, with services being split at Horsham rather than Barnham. The services also ran non-stop between Portsmouth and Southampton towards Barnham, leaving some stations worse off in terms of frequency. As well as this, if the services were running behind schedule, they would not split at Horsham and either terminate there or run non-stop to Barnham, leaving many commuters without onward travel to the stations for long periods of time. This was rectified in December 2008, and in the same timetable change, Gatwick Express services were increased to improve frequency. However, the Class 460 Junipers were poor on the reliability front and led to major delays along the Brighton Main Line until Gatwick Express leased Class 442s from South West Trains, with these eventually being replaced by Class 387s. Also in 2008, Southern gained 5 Class 350-1s from London Midland to allow for several Class 377s to be temporarily leased to First Capital Connect, while they waited on delayed Class 377s to be built for themselves. Eventually, the 350s were subsequently released back to London Midland in 2009. Back to 2008, the Department for Transport announced that the South Central franchise end date would be moved forward to 2009 to allow for major retimetaling works to be completed by the new franchise. National Express, Ned Rail and Stagecoach were all shortlisted, with Govia also attempting to retain the franchise. London Overground also considered attempting to take over some of the metro services Southern ran, but the Department for Transport rejected these transfers. In 2009, it was announced that Govia had kept the franchise until 2013. The new franchise would allow for more frequent and secure services along the route, with more Class 377s being ordered to allow for longer suburban services. Southern would also enhance their late night services, with full frequency running until at least 11 PM, and services running on reduced frequencies for several hours after. Additional services across the network were provided, including more Gatwick Express services and more Uckfield to London services. To make Severn more secure, all trains would be fitted with CCTV by 2011, including the older Class 455s and 456s. Severn also promised ticket gates at 22 more stations, and extra parking spaces across the network. Also, as part of the new franchise, Severn gained a fleet of ex-London Overground Class 313s in December 2010 on the Coastway line to release extra 377s to strengthen other services and provide a small capacity boost to the Coastway line. The Class 313's introduction and subsequent refurbishment was announced in September 2010. However, it didn't go without controversy. The RMT union branded the refurbishment as unacceptable, with Severn confirming the 313s would not have toilets after the refurbishment. Although the units weren't actually built with toilets, many expected the refurbishment to include the addition of toilets, with the Class 313s running on several routes which totalled well over an hour in length, and then replacing Class 377s which did have toilets. Passenger Focus also emphasised how the decision could hinder the young, elderly and those with medical conditions. Severn did combat this criticism by highlighting how they would be increasing the number of toilets at stations, and how services between Brighton and Portsmouth would still primarily be served by units with toilets on board. Overall though, Passenger Focus labelled the move as a negative one for passengers, despite the refurbishment of the 313s to an as-new condition with a new Severn interior. Also in the December 2010 timetable change, many of the frequency upgrades promised in the new franchise came to be. Additional weekend and evening services were introduced, with a metro-style frequency introduced on most services around London. In 2011, it was announced that, to oblige with the franchise conditions, Severn would be installing CCTV across all 157 stations they managed, and, to add to this, Severn ordered a further 26 377s due to the fact that the 377s on hire to First Capital Connect would not be returned to Severn. Overall, it would lead to an increase in capacity though, especially with Severn announcing in 2012 that it exercised an option to add an additional 8 units to that order. 2012 was also the first time Severn got in hot water in mainstream news, after it emerged that a train at Epsom had closed its doors before everyone had boarded, splitting a mother from her children. Severn confirmed this by looking at CCTV footage and then highlighting how the incident should not have happened, as there were dispatch staff present on the platform. Although the incident was minor, the idea of Severn splitting a family apart did harm the company and got bad reactions across social media. In 2013, Severn got the Class 377s they had ordered in 2011/2012, allowing most services leaving London to now be formed of 10 carriages. In 2014, with more Class 377-6s delivered, Severn released its entire fleet of 24 Class 456s to South West trains, bringing Severn's average fleet age down considerably. In 2015, however, things began to go downhill quite fast, with a lot of negative press beginning to accumulate. Firstly, Lewis MP, Norman Baker, suggested that the amount of complaints he had received regarding Severn had increased dramatically in 2015, most citing poor punctuality, cancellations and lack of information. Severn said that they would take on any feedback and they were determined to return their service to the level that passengers deserve. In January, it was revealed that the 0729 Brighton to London service failed to arrive into London Victoria on time at all across 240 attempts in the previous year. In May, the Office of Rail and Road released its yearly punctuality statistics, with Severn being headlined across news outlets, with 1 in 5 Severn trains arriving more than 5 minutes late to their destination. They also had the highest number of services cancelled or over 30 minutes late, at 6.2%. Severn blamed ongoing Network Rail works at London Bridge. Severn were also slandered after they fined passengers in May for being in the first class section without a first class ticket, despite the train being dangerously overcrowded. Severn suggested these passengers were sitting in the section, not standing, and fines wouldn't have been issued to the passengers who were standing in the section. Nevertheless, the headlines proved damaging, with even the Prime Minister condemning the company's services. Also in May, Severn changed their timetable, with Severn now being incorporated into the Greater Govia Thameslink Railway franchise, with overall service times lengthened considerably to attempt to improve punctuality. Yes, May 2015 was a busy month for Severn. Drivers voted for strike action against Severn after rejecting a pay offer from the company. It was also confirmed that between April 2015 and March 2016, despite the suggested improved timetable, only 20% of trains arrived on time during the period, with the Transport Select Committee telling ministers to get a grip and strip Severn's franchise. 2016 was by far the worst year to be a Severn passenger. In February 2016, Severn suggested that they wanted to close up to 51 station ticket offices, with strike action then taking place. In June 2016, after another strike announcement, 7 passengers in Brighton protested against 7 and their commitment to driver-only operation. In response to 7 confirming they wanted to move to driver-only operation, 7's conductors planned further strike action, walking out in mid-June. To make matters worse, due to shortages in staff, 7 had to implement an emergency timetable in July, cutting 350 services a day every day for at least 4 weeks. 7 blamed staff illness, but the union suggested it was 7 who had just not hired enough staff. The company would no longer run services from Littlehampton to Portsmouth, Clapham to Milton Keynes Central, and Tonbridge to Redhill, whilst staffing was low. The unions blamed 7, suggesting they had not hired enough staff and cancellations had led to many fainting commuters. Hove's MP also blamed the government, suggesting the service had hit rock bottom, with the government also having to take some of the blame. On the 5th of July 2016, things got so bad that on the BBC website they had a live report feed of 7's mess, claiming that 341 services had been cancelled in that day alone, with 7 having to respond to the disruption to a private independent rail board. #7failed trended on Twitter, and the RMT General Secretary Mick Cash says the management of GTR was a dreadful campaign of misinformation. A combination of strike action from drivers over pay, guards over their roles and jobs, as well as staff sickness had led to a huge mess at 7, with the company becoming the laughingstock of the UK rail system. This was confirmed when a bookmaker put odds on the 0729 Brighton to Victoria service arriving not on time at 7-2 for the whole year, with The Guardian confirming that the service had a 22% chance of never arriving on time. In August, it was confirmed that 5 days of striking would happen, with GTR confirming it would press ahead with the removal of guards on its services. During these days, 7 cancelled all 2,242 of its services, with the strikes eventually leading to the formation of the Rail Ombudsman, to allow for all passengers to get a third-party, non-biased view on fares and delay repay claims. In December 2016, the government announced it would pay £50 million to 7 in a deal which would cover lost income from the strikes. £38 million of this was for lost income, with £15 million for compensation to passengers. Many were shocked at this agreement, with it putting the strikes and its impacts to burden the taxpayer, not the company that had started them. However, in February 2017, it was announced that an agreement had been made between ASLEF and 7, meaning drivers would no longer strike after taking a 28% pay rise within 5 years. This came just a month after the Department for Transport threatened 7 with renationalisation if they could not stop disruption and cancellations to the service. It was also confirmed in July 2017 that 7 were number 1 for the most overcrowded service in the UK. The 0716 East Grinstead to London Bridge service had more than double the passengers it was designed to take. The DfT released data which showed that up to 1,300 people were crammed onto a 12-car train designed to hold just 640. GTR made up 6 out of the 10 most overcrowded services, so it wasn't just 7. At the end of July, 7 was ranked the worst TOC in the UK, with just 72% of passengers satisfied with their journeys. 7 ranked second bottom for value for money, with 7 suggesting that infrastructure and strikes were to blame. Although ASLEF strikes were resolved, guard strikes with the RMT had not been, with guards continuing to strike regarding their roles as guards with 7. This time cancellations were minimal, but they did still exist. Overall, Govia said that services in 2017 had improved, but knew they still had work to do. Although hit with a £15 million fine for its poor performance, the company still had large profits of £137 million in 2016-17. Although services were slowly improving, in 2018 7 were once again the worst TOC in the UK, a which survey had found. This time only 28% of passengers were satisfied with the service, with 7 directly blaming unions for failing to allow the network to modernise and provide a more reliable service without guards on board. 7 suggested that a more intensified timetable would start from May 2018. 37% of passengers also believed the service had got worse, with Govia Thameslink Railway managing the bottom 3 operators in the survey. That May timetable change that I just talked about? Well, it turns out it was actually worse for quite a lot of passengers. Although it sped up some journeys, differing timings meant many passengers missed connecting services and had to have an overall longer journey. However, some benefited from faster, more express services. In 2019, 7 was named as one of the worst operators, along with Govia Thameslink Railway as a whole, regarding compensation. Over 1 million claims were submitted to GTR between 2018 and 2019, with many of these also taking longer than the specified 20 days required. Also in 2019, 7 got in hot water, literally, after staff were filmed pouring water on a homeless man to get him to move. The story made national headlines, and eventually the staff in the footage was suspended, and Seven apologised to the man. After 2019, COVID happened, which put a stop to any development or improvements to the route, and a reduced timetable was put in operation during the COVID period. Seven's contract was extended in 2021 and again in 2022 until April 2028. However, this still limits any development of the service, with everything now going through the Department for Transport, giving Govia very little control over the franchise. The most recent notable change for Seven is the retirement of the Class 313s being replaced by 377s, which ironically were replaced by the 313s in the first place. Also, the Class 377s have recently been refurbished to include new screens and plug sockets as well as other improvements. Southern may also potentially be gaining some ex-Great Northern Class 387s, with the Class 379s moving from storage to join Great Northern, thus releasing some spare Class 387s and allowing a potential capacity increase along Southern's network. So that brings us to today. Are Southern a failed franchise? Legally, no, but they were very, very close to being stripped and got away with a slap on the wrist and a fine. In my opinion, Southern's contract definitely should have been stripped in 2016 or 2017, largely due to the disruption caused and misery given to passengers. I went on Southern in April 2024 to get footage for this video, and for the most part the Class 377s were nice, although some services were very busy, albeit I was travelling on a bank holiday, so I'll let them off. With Southern retiring the 455s in 2022 and then the 313s in 2023, it now means that only the 377s remain, and they are good trains. And compared to all the disruption in 2016 and 17, Southern run quite a good, intense, frequent service, which isn't that bad. So perhaps now they're not a failed franchise, but they definitely were in 2016 and 17. Do let me know in the comments if you've had any notable journeys with Southern, and please like and subscribe if you did enjoy, as well as checking out my whole failed franchises playlist if you haven't already. Also, do consider joining the channel to support me and get some cool perks, such as access to private Discord channels and access to videos early. Special thanks to my first class member, Mia Jane, and my business zone members, Anthony Harris and Smudgy Cat. Also, thanks to Devaruni for his donations and membership. Thanks so much for watching. Check out my Twitter, Discord and Instagram in the links below, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.